And 7 years ago, I was working as a trainer and a coach about 8 hours a day. I had another night job, so I was working sometimes 10, 12, 14-hour days. And when my wife got connected again with network marketing, it was a nutrition company. My secret agenda was that, yes, I'm going to support my wife, kinda, but I'm gonna expose the company. I'm going to expose the people who got me and my wife started. But that was my
as a secret agent, you're gonna go in and you're gonna prove to her that it was not real.
Yeah, that was so. I'm gonna get my I told you so moment, and I just kind of exposed myself in 2 weeks.
Really, that's all it took.
Yeah, two weeks. I realized, like, man, this is actually maybe I can make $500.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Excellence Project. My name is Eric Worre, and today I have my personal trainer, Sami Eskelin, here on the show. We're not actually going to talk that much about training. He's a network marketing professional as well as being a trainer. He's retired from training, but he's agreed to kind of continue to train me. His wife, Mandy, trains my wife, Marina. But we talk about everything from growing up in Scandinavia to background, history, the physical aspect of, doing what he's done physically, military, transition to network marketing, being a big skeptic of it, trying to prove it wrong, and network marketing ending up proving itself right, and the career that they've built together and how they've learned how to manage working together as a couple. So for all of those reasons, I think you'll find this very, very interesting. So with no further ado, let's jump right into my conversation with Sami Eskelin. Sami Eskelin, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I haven't seen you in like 3 hours.
It's been at least 3 hours.
Yes. So for those that don't know, Sami is my trainer. He's been trying to get my ass in shape for how many years?
Man, it's 6-ish.
6 years. Yeah. So it was mostly babysitting for the first 4 years. Very inconsistent.
Yeah.
I didn't get any results.
You like the idea of getting in shape for the first maybe 4 or 5 years.
Yes. And then the last 2 years got serious, had a couple injuries. We're past that now, making some progress. We're able to go a little harder. So anyway, this is the guy who shows up, holds me accountable practically every day. So thank you for that. We're making progress. We still have miles to go.
Yes, sir. My honor.
I asked Sami early on. I said, "So, how long will it take for me to get in the shape that you're in?" And do you remember your response?
Yeah, I think I responded with another question.
Which was?
I said, well, how long would it take me to be in your shoes when it comes to finances and success in business?
And I was like, okay, fair point. Fair point. It's not going to get there in 1 second.
Yeah.
But anyway, Sami is not like a professional trainer. He was in that world for a while, but he's kind of doing it as a favor to me. And his wife, Mandy, trains Marina. So we had our workout this morning and decided to sit down because Sami and Mandy are also successful people in network marketing. So they have done well, built a big business. But what I'd like to do, I know you're from Finland originally, yes?
Yes, sir.
So what was it like growing up in Finland?
Man, I had an amazing childhood. I wish I would have. Well, no, I don't have any. Come from a very, very modest beginnings. Like I wasn't an athlete my whole entire life. I got into soccer when I was 7 years old. Both my parents were working. I want to say middle class parents. We weren't balling. We weren't struggling. At least my parents did a good job of not showing that struggle to me. but most of my childhood went on just playing sports. And that was my single focus. Ever since I started playing soccer when I was 6 years old, I thought I'm gonna be a professional soccer player.
Yeah.
So that was my
How high did you go in soccer? How far did you make it?
I got in a national level in a way that the next step would have been a tryouts in a national team. So I did pretty good.
And
I got selected in the regional team.
And what happened? How did it end? That path?
I got into other sports as well.
Okay.
So I got into martial arts. I started doing karate when I was 8 years old. Then I started playing other sports. A little known sports called floorball, which is kind of like running around in an ice hockey rink type of environment and slapping like a wiffle ball around. But it was very popular in Scandinavia, so I played that a little bit. But then I started getting into Muay Thai, grappling, MMA, and that kind of took me in. And Finland is a country that has a mandatory military service. So all men between the age of 18 and 28 have to go through a mandatory service.
For how many years?
You can do it as little as 6 months, like if you wanted to do it. But my parents kind of installed me that mindset that if you have to do something, you might as well do it the way that gives you the most amount of ROI. And I applied to be in one of the special operations units. So there's parachute Jaegers, there's Army recons.
Parachute Jaeger?
Yeah.
Like Jägermeister?
Jaeger it's basically a ranger.
Okay.
So Jaeger is a commonly used term in a lot of European armed forces.
Okay.
So and I end up going in one of the rapid deployment brigade, became an army recon. And I went through an officer school, went back to my unit, and ended up staying there for a while, for a few years. And
how long were you in the service?
Between active duty as well as reserve, 11 years.
11 years. Wow. And if I remember right, back as a teenager, you'd taken some jobs using some of your martial arts training and your muscle. When did you start adding muscle to your physique?
When I was 13.
13. All right.
I remember that very vividly. I was in a point where I played soccer. I was also a track and field. I was a sprinter and long jumper.
Did everything.
Yeah. And I did very well with that as well. So I was very fast. And that kind of became my thing. But I just got obsessed with sports to a level that by the time I was 13, I went to a library and started looking up how I can enhance my performance through nutrition. Started getting super excited about working out. And I went to a local community gym, and there were a lot of Olympic powerlifters. So I started training with them, and it just hit me right away. I became obsessed of just enhancing my performance through workouts in all the other sports.
So starting at 13.
Yeah.
So you had a broad spectrum of sports. Are you paying attention to grades at all in school?
Yeah, I was doing decently.
Okay.
Yeah, I was doing well. I was obsessed with history.
Okay.
History ever since I was like I said 14, 15.
Right.
That was my passion. I was fairly talented in math. So I was never the one who excels in everything, but I was never bad at anything.
Right.
So
you did good enough in school. You excelled in sports, and you decided to like really get bigger and stronger and tougher and learn how to fight starting at 13.
Yeah. And so by the time I was probably 16, I was bench pressing 225, 250.
Okay.
And at that point, I guess that kind of slowed me down on the soccer as well. So I started more doubling up on the grappling, submission grappling, and MMA at the time. And by the time I was 19, I went and did my armed service. That's when I stepped in.
I understand, but like, what jobs did you have?
Oh yeah, that's right. Let's get back.
What
So,
jobs did you have
so
as
the-
a teenager that where you could use this muscle, you could use this Muay Thai, you could use these martial arts,
Yes,
and
I was
grappling and everything else?
yes. So I became a bouncer.
At what age?
First time I worked behind um, in a restaurant when I was like my late 16s.
Okay.
And the legal age to be in a restaurant was 18. So I had a little bit of a back door on that because the gym where I was working out at the time, the owner of the gym was a guy who was running like 2-3 different nightclubs and saloons. By nightclubs, I'm from a small town, so a nightclub is very different than nightclub here in Vegas. So they were more like, the place was literally called Roadhouse.
Yeah.
So and the first shift that I do by myself was when I was like 17.
Okay.
So, and I was working as a bouncer all the way till I moved to US. So I probably like 13, 14 years.
So that was your primary income.
Yeah.
So was it like Roadhouse? Was it like, crazy rough and tumble?
Yeah. I have quite a few stories.
Yeah.
But
give me one.
My hometown, there's a lot of or there was at the time a lot of organized crime as well. And also in a small town, there's not a lot of things to do except go get hammered on the weekends. And there's also a sport institute outside of my hometown that brought in a lot of people from the capital, which is Helsinki. So there was a good variety of people. So anything from people trying to poke me with their dirty needles and stab me and pulling guns on me and then stuff like that. So I lost counts.
So in 13 years of this, did you ever get shot?
I've been putting pointing at a gun. People tried to stab me quite a few times with various things. Anything from.
Did you get stabbed?
No.
So you're able to avoid getting stabbed and avoid getting shot.
Yes.
But basically calm people down, diffuse the situation.
Yeah, like by diffusing, like hands-on, and just basically hurt them a little bit more before they're gonna hurt you. When you're in a point where you're facing a rusty screwdriver, and you know that there's gonna be a chance that it's gonna be in my throat, on the back of my neck, on my back,
Why this job? Wasn't there other jobs after? Was this something you were doing while you were in the military?
Occasionally, yeah.
Okay,
but after
so
I got out of my active duty, I end up working there 3-4 days a week.
Okay. So that was your go-to.
That was my additional income. After military, I got recruited to a big security company.
Okay.
So I became operations manager. So the last few years in that company, what my unit does, we operating in Helsinki. And we had about 25 to 30 guys. And I was responsible for the field operations. So my unit handled a lot of high threat alerts. So we were the additional rapid response. So jewelry stores, banks, government buildings, and everything else, if something were to happen, anything from dangerous person to whatever they need additional assistance, they would alarm us. We'll be able to get anything from 1 to 4 guys on that situation. So I did that in daytimes, about 45 to 60 hours a week. And then all weekends I was working as a bouncer in those clubs and restaurants.
So, political question for you. History, you say you're a student of history.
Yeah.
History tends to repeat itself.
Absolutely.
What's going to happen between Finland and Russia?
That's a good question. I've been trying to follow. Obviously, haven't lived in Finland for 14 years, so I still follow news there and everything else. There's definitely tension there, but then again, there's been tension throughout the history of those two countries. Ever since the World War II, there was Finland and Russia were in war against each other, called the Winter War, and then there was a continuing war afterwards.
But Finland's like surprisingly prepared.
Yeah,
they're like ready to go.
Yeah, because we have a very high level of patriotism. So we kind of, because a lot of my grandparents were in war.
Right.
So we kind of feel that that's our duty to defend our country. Now, that's at least when I was there. I think I think it's changed a little bit. Obviously, the whole NATO now being in picture and all that, it's going to add another variable. I don't know where that goes, but even my parents, they're kind of, it's like, we'll see what happened. But I think even 2 years ago when Putin was giving warnings to Finland, like, do not interfere. Like, do not interfere. I think our prime minister literally went on national TV and said, yeah, we've been hearing those threats for decades. So, yeah. So we're kind of stubborn in a way,
Okay.
at least publicly.
Yeah.
But there's definitely tensions being for what is this now? 60, 70
Yep.
years, 80 years.
Yeah. Being on the border with Russia is kind of interesting.
Oh man. So when I'm saying that military, like I was in a part of a rapid deployment brigade. So one of the three main brigades that if we're the saying, if they blow the whistle, so to speak.
Yeah.
So like there's an attempt, they would call us, and we were all like, our brigade was operating in a border. So we were always in a kind of a readiness level. We were training right on around the border. Because what my unit does is we purposely leave behind the enemy lines and do counter special forces. We do sabotage missions. We do any kind of intelligence gathering, reconnaissance, and that
Scary
was
stuff.
Yeah. And what I did is my secondary officer in that recon group is that we were always operating, ready to operate about weeks and weeks and weeks independently. Live off the land and operate in all quietness.
So if the apocalypse happens, or the EMP shuts everything down, we want you need to be on our team.
Yeah, I know my way around the woods.
All right.
So that was definitely our main goal.
Tell me something about Finland that the rest of the world wouldn't know. What makes Finnish people different?
Sisu.
Sisu.
Sisu is a concept. Even there was a movie even last year. I think it was 2 years ago. Sisu is basically a concept that a lot of foreign magazines that an article about it. It's basically our life essence. It's like Jedi has the Force.
Right.
So Finnish people has the Sisu. It's the ultimate form of grit and resilience.
That's
some
what
people
they're proud
call
of.
Yeah, that's what we call stubbornness too. Like when everything else fails, and when the willpower and everything else, physical, emotional capacity comes to an end, that's when Sisu kicks in and will take you over that.
And that's planted from a very early age.
Yeah, it specifically became a very like a Finnish thing during the war against Russia. But I think it's another thing is that a lot of people don't know is especially when I was growing up and I moved to US, there's still like almost 15 years ago, people still almost had an idea that there's polar bears running around the city and there's people going to horses and carriages. But Finland is being one of the most technologically advanced country there is. We're the homeland of Nokia, which at the time, cell phone, like what it is, 70% of all cell phones in the world were Nokia phones.
Sure.
So we're very advanced, but at the same time, we're very earthy and close to nature.
Got it.
People. So the advancement technologically is one of the things that comes as a surprise.
Sure.
To a lot of people.
So how do you end up finding your way to the United States? What's the story? How'd that happen?
So when I was working at that security company, I was kind of at that point I was overworked, underpaid, overeducated. I had my master's degrees in corporate security management. So again, we're doing those security contracting with a lot of big companies, all the main banks and everything else. And I was able to help that unit grow millions and millions in revenue. And ultimately, I asked my boss a raise for a long time because I said, I don't want to work as a bouncer anymore. Like I gotta sleep at some point too. So I'm like, you know what? I need a commitment. So for a long time, I was saying to my boss that, hey, listen, why don't we just check out my pay level over here? And ultimately, after pretty much begging, and I was offered like 20, 30 euros a month. And at that point, I realized, okay, the corporate life is not for me. I don't want to be like, I don't want someone else to dictate what my worthiness is. And as I was grateful, I realized that this is something that I need to do something else. So at the time, I was director of training of a gentleman called Jim Wagner. Jim Wagner is in a realistic base and tactical worldwide. He's kind of considered to be the godfather of realistic self-defense. He was a student of Danny Nosanto and all these major names. So I've been training under Jim for a long time. And I was his director of training. So I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna start my own training company. I'm gonna go into that full time. I reached out to one of my friends who I knew for years, and he was a bouncer as well. So I helped him to get some courses and everything else, and we're supposed to be in business together, training law enforcement, military, and civilians for high threat situations, self-defense, how to be a hard target. And I resigned from my day job. At the same time, I broke up with my girlfriend that I was living with. Mm-hmm. And 2 weeks before the launch of our own training company, my friend called me and said, listen, I got a job offer that I can't start a business with you anymore. So I didn't have a day job. I wasn't in a relationship anymore, and company is not going to happen. So I'm like, well, what I'm going to do.
And how old are you at the time?
29.
Okay.
So Jim Wagner lives in Irvine at the time. So I thought I'm going to go to US on 90 days of visa waiver. And I'm going to go and visit and see what's going to happen. Maybe I'm going to come to Finland and I'm going to put that company up by myself or whatever. I just needed to be there.
Are you going to be like a Schwarzenegger coming over and, make it big?
It wasn't my intention to stay in US. It was just about a 90-day breather and just coming to talk with Jim and see what's going to happen. I lived in LA for a month and through different moves, I ended up coming to Vegas. I met my now ex-wife. But I end up staying in the US for that. But a few years ago, before I got into network marketing, I actually end up starting my own security consulting company. So I end up getting my PPO license, which is private patrol officer, which is basically a license that is required for you to start your own security company. So I was also doing some executive protection work, bodyguard work, lack of a kind of like in layman's terms, but so that was kind of like I almost got into security aspect again, but then network marketing started kind of picking up. I fell in love with the industry and
how long ago did you first kind of like see the picture for network marketing?
This is actually a funny story. This is about 7 years ago now.
Okay.
So if I really want to go back all the way to 25 years, the same guy who was running that gym that got me as a bouncer, there was a network marketing company at the time that was selling colostrum.
Okay.
That was in Finland. That was a big thing. And I went to a network marketing meeting. I didn't know at the time what it was called, but this was a little before I went to military. And I went home with a bunch of products, and my dad was just like, "Oh, son, they got you." I was 19 years old. And could you imagine, like, I don't play my dad. A 19-year-old kid goes back home and say, hey, I'm going to be dad. I'm going to be a multimillionaire. Like, this is it. This is my chance. So he talked me down, and I carried that stigma of network marketing being a scam for almost.
So did you quit right away?
Yeah, I did not do anything.
Okay. You use the products?
Yeah, a little bit.
Use the products, and then but decided you weren't going to build it because your dad talked to you and said, this is not real.
Yeah, I didn't even understand. I was just like, I didn't even pass the idea level of, I didn't even get my toes wet.
Okay.
But at the time.
So fast forward, you go through all this security, all this stuff, all this risk to your body, all this, protecting other people.
Yeah.
Dealing with bad guys.
Yeah. And 7 years ago, I was working as a trainer and a coach about 8 hours a day. I had another night job. So I was working sometimes 10, 12, 14-hour days. And when my wife got connected again with network marketing, it was a nutrition company. My secret agenda was that, yes, I'm going to support my wife, kinda, but I'm gonna expose the company. I'm going to expose the people who got me and my wife started. But that was my
as a secret agent, you're gonna go in and you're gonna prove to her that it was not real.
Yeah, that was so. I'm gonna get my I told you so moment, and I just kind of exposed myself in 2 weeks.
Really, that's all it took.
Yeah, two weeks. I realized, like, man, this is actually maybe I can make $500 because I started thinking, what else I'm gonna do? I've went through so many different ventures and options. We're looking to start our own gym. I was in the process of starting a private military security company operating in Middle East. I had partners in that. So I've been in a lot of things where it's just falling down. And
I remember when we first met, you said, yeah, here's how it can work. I have this app. And this app is like a workout app, and I'm going to put your meal plans in there, and I'm going to put workouts in there, and the app's just going to really help you, and I'm going to support you through the app. And my response was, an app's not going to work for me, bro. If there's not somebody sitting in front of me, I'm not going to write down what I eat, and I'm not going to watch a little video of what I'm supposed to lift. If somebody's not sitting there holding me accountable to make me do it, at least at this stage, maybe later, but an app's not going to be the thing. And I remember thinking, well, I hope he doesn't think that that's his future, the app. Because, maybe some people have figured that out. There probably are some people, but it seemed like a crowded space, like the personal trainer space. You got to do splits with gyms and, not the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah. And it was... And again, it's a lot like network marketing in a way that it's very easy to get into. Becoming a personal trainer is not, it's not difficult. You can go and take a course and do 100 questions and go get a certification to become a trainer. And the industry becomes very diluted. So, but I guess I had a little bit of entrepreneurial business-minded person in a way that I was in the very beginning, I was thinking about how I'm going to scale my business. So online training was definitely a one thing. I said, I have 24 hours a day. I have to sleep at some point. I have certain duties in my relationship and with my wife. So I have to figure out how I'm going to scale this business. So app at the time was something that allowed me to extend my reach to our online clients. So it was a tool definitely that I was working with. But yeah, I realized that once we've done the app, you can't beat human connection.
No,
it's just
not for me. Yeah. Maybe for some people.
And it's not even personal training is not just. There's trainers that are certified rep counters, meaning counting. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm saying like there's a type of trainer for everyone, but that's not who I wanted to be. I wanted to immediately serve people that are higher level, more committed. So my services was a lot more expensive compared to anything from $100 to $175 a session. And by session, I mean that obviously comes out a lot of work outside of those training sessions as well. But my wife and I, we pride ourselves being a very like a concierge level. We're doing weekly planning for very high level business people who are traveling a lot, who couldn't hire trainers.
How many of the wealthy people that you trained did what you told them to do? Honest. Versus how many fought you the entire time? Like me.
I want to say 15 to 20% of the people are actually doing exactly what I was planning.
And the rest were negotiating all the time.
Again, liking the idea of being in shape.
Yeah.
Everybody can be committed for a few weeks.
Right.
But you know this, like there's so many different relatable things between training and well, pretty much being good at anything.
Yeah.
Like consistency is the most hardest phase. It goes against human psychology so much. But especially when you're in a training business, like the consistency is the ultimate tripwire.
For sure.
And so especially when you have very smart people that you work with.
Right.
And smart people are usually very, like, they have a higher level of skill to negotiation, even with themselves, or especially with themselves.
Of course.
Like, you know this. You remember when we first got started, it was always a negotiation with me, and then it was negotiation with yourself.
Yep.
There was 2 negotiations going on all the time.
Yep.
So, but that's why I wanted to, because you can never avoid that, but I wanted to mitigate that. So like, you know what? If you don't pay, you don't pay attention. So that was one of the big things that I wanted to, it's like, I need to price our services to a point where
it hurts a little if they don't.
It hurts. It's definitely something that it's a level of accountability. That's what I even said. It was like, this money, that the fee that you're going to pay me serves 2 purposes. A, it's for my expertise and years of gaining this knowledge and helping people. That's one. But secondary, it's accountability. It's a financial accountability. So it serves that purposes. But obviously I wanted accountability, like money can't be just accountability and just give the money to me. So obviously I have to match that money with the level of service and commitment for my end as well. But I wanted to kind of weed out those tourists.
Right.
Again, analogy in network marketing, it's like, it's easy to get in and it's easy to get out.
Right.
So what's easy to do is also easy not to do.
Right.
So
your wife is the one who gets excited. She starts it all off.
She's the rock star.
And you're going to be the supportive husband, but you're secretly trying to figure out if it's a scam.
Yeah, I was asking a lot of questions and asking
tough questions.
Yeah.
But after it only took a couple of weeks for you to realize, nope, it's straight up.
Yeah, because I started kind of looking myself like, listen, I haven't really found anything that's too alarming. Then that's like, in a couple of weeks, we made our initial investment back. We're like, because our goal was to only make $500 a month.
Yeah.
We're like, well, if you're already recommending some products, sending people in a supplement store and everything else, and I'm not making any money with that. So if I can make $500, I can take extra day off every now and then. So once we make that $500, I was like, this is interesting. Maybe I need to dive into this a little bit more. And that's how I kind of operate. When my interest is peaked, I'll dive right in. I compress time frames in a very short amount of time. Mm-hmm. And I just started becoming a student of the industry immediately. And obviously when we met, we got acquainted. My wife and I, we were in the industry for a year.
Right.
At that point, we knew that this is going to be one of our main sources of income.
Hey there, just a quick interruption, especially for network marketers. Whether you're just starting out or if you're ready to level up, GoPro Academy has just what you need to take your network marketing business to the next level. Get step-by-step training on how to get started or restarted the right way, and then get everything you need to earn 6 figures or more and become a network marketing pro. To learn more, just visit goproacademy.com. I've helped millions of people learn how to recruit, tens of thousands of people to reach six figures, and I've personally helped more than 1,000 people achieve seven-figure incomes and above in network marketing. I can help you too. Head to goproacademy.com today, and I'll see you there. And at the time, I mean, you've been with two companies since you started. And at the time, you were very good at basically signing up customers and selling product.
Yeah.
But not great yet at building a big team.
Yeah.
You struggled with the duplication piece.
Yeah.
Which is where I struggled too. My first 3.5 years, man, I couldn't get anything to duplicate. It was all me. So, but you sold a lot of product. You signed up a lot of people. But you were never able to kind of really get over the hump. I remember those being kind of difficult times for you guys because you had kind of gone all in and went full time, and the income wasn't quite there to match the full-time effort. And it was a little bit of a struggle.
Oh, for sure. It was a lot of bit of struggle.
Yeah.
My wife, she's a fitness pro. She, at the time, one of the top ones in the world. So we had credibility. We looked the part. We were enthusiastic. We were motivated and driven. So that allowed us to get people started with the products.
Right.
Or get started with the business. But we were lacking really the ability to, because you can't duplicate enthusiasm. You can't duplicate necessarily credibility. So if you want to create duplication, it has to happen through some other ways. And we did not know how to do that at the time.
Right.
So, and that's when you obviously been playing a big part in our lives.
Mm-hmm. So ultimately you kind of panned out the first opportunity. You proved you're a good seller, not necessarily good at duplication. You made a switch to another health and wellness company, which you've been with for how long now?
Closing 5 years now.
5 years. And what changed as far as your ability to build teams versus just sell product? Because there's a lot of people in the world of network marketing that they can sell product all day. They can say, hey, you need to check this out. They can refer people. And they're very comfortable in that product sharing piece. But when the business opportunity comes up, they just like, they freeze up, and they're nervous about talking about growing a network marketing network.
Yeah.
You kind of came into your company you're with now with the mentality that you were going to not just sell, but you were going to build a team. What made the difference the second time around to get a team built?
Systems and culture was the big thing that got our interest. We found a group of people and organization. First organization, it wasn't even the company even at first. We got acquainted with people that are now our best friends, and did not try to cross recruit us in any way.
Right.
Like, I didn't even know what company they were with at the time. So we just became friends, and they were living outside of Vegas. So whenever they came in town, we just talked. But after we started kind of noticing, like, they were pushing six-figure income earners out like never seen before. And I was like, what is going on? Like, why? We're not even able to, complete transparency, making $2,000-$3,000 a month. And we had a fancy rank and everything else. And we kind of felt like we were imposters. We're like, well, company says that we're doing extremely well and we have a fancy rank. But when you really put the time, the money that we're making, dividing that with the time we're putting in, we're working minimum wage. So we're like, listen, this is weird now. We're doing something wrong. And we started like kind of becoming like, what are you guys doing? Not wanting to see if we're going to join their business, but
how are they doing it? How
yeah. Like what kind of systems are you using? Like, what are you using? Like protocol systems and everything else. And coming from military, like having SOPs made all sense to me. And when you see someone having SOPs on everything, it's like, man, that makes so much sense. And Wesley, then they had a proof to show, like, hey, here's how what's being created duplication. And but we're like, hey, this is a shiny object. We're not gonna get into this. We're just gonna take these lessons and go into our old organization and start kind of implementing some of these. And we're kind of our upline at the time. We're kind of chuckling like, oh, that's cute. Oh, you're creating your own system. That's cute. So that kind of added the fuel in the fire. And eventually we're like, we have two options. We're going to throw in the towel in the industry because
Go get a job.
It's just quit the industry, or give it a one last hoorah and say that, you know what, fresh start. Well, we'll really see if we're made in this industry.
So I remember your sponsor came to live with you for quite a while when you launched.
Yeah, they weren't living in Salt Lake City, so they basically moved in our house 5 days out of 7. Went back to Salt Lake City for 2 days. Came back in and
just worked with you 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Like you were like their project.
Yeah, it was, and we knew how that's gonna work, and we were like, listen,
pretty kind of unusual.
It was at the time, and it was also we built the friendship already at that point that we really enjoyed being around them anyway. Mm-hmm. But my wife and I were very competitive, we're very driven, so it worked for us. We're like, listen, if we're going to make a drastic decision and switch companies, and one, we're not doing it for very light reasons. Mm-hmm. There was reasons in the background. And two, if we do this, then we're going to give it to our all. Mm-hmm. Like, we're going to give this a year or 2 years and just give everything we got. And we were able to 10x our production in a matter of 2 months compared to what it took 2 years in our old company. Mm-hmm. And once you kind of win that confidence, you really feel like, hey, I can do this. That's going to be the ultimate, like, secret level unlocked. Because you can superficially be like, hey, I'm going to build a 6-figure business and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But we all have that noise in the back of our heads like, yeah, right, we'll see. But once you able to accomplish that certain level of duplication, and it's almost like the parachute, like paracords are cut off from your back. And it's like, no, now it's time to run. And then we built the fastest growing organization in the company in the first year. Yeah. But it was chaotic, but fun.
Yeah. You talk about you and your wife being competitive. What lessons did you learn about how to work with each other? Because that's not always the easiest thing in the world for a couple to both be building a business. Yeah. Sometimes it's competitive. Sometimes it gets a little blamey. You know, one side's blaming the other, or I recruited more than he recruited, or I recruited more than she did. And, you know, sometimes people are territorial. They say, you stay out. This is my business. Sometimes they're constantly pushing for you to do more. I mean, I don't, I know part of the story, but how is figuring out how to work in harmony together in, under the same roof without driving each other crazy?
Well, we drove each other crazy. There was no avoiding that. Yeah. But that's marriage anyway. So it's, if the expectation of marriage, it's all sunshine and rainbow, you're going to disappoint a lot. Same thing than in any business. But as long as we both have the same willingness, we're on the same page. We both were committed to the industry. And so we didn't doubt each other's commitment. Obviously, like you said, there's always going to be like, well, I'm doing this. Why don't you do the same amount of this?
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Yeah. And especially when you work in a very female-driven industry, there might be like the comparison always comes there. Again, when you have two competitive personalities, sometimes you even use that competitiveness like, hey, I got 20. How many you have? And so it was a learning curve.
Because I don't sense that today.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's still a little bit.
Yeah.
But you'll compete, or you'll push each other a little bit here and there. She'll want you to do certain things, or you'll want her to do certain things. But early in the game, it was hardcore. Like, I'm going to crush you. I'm going to recruit 10 times more than you do.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. It's kind of like having two CEOs in a company rather than having one CEO and one CFO. So you, in the process, you find yourself two executive roles, and those roles might have a little bit of overlap, but you have to also recognize first, finding yourself, what do I feel like my comfort zone is?
And what roles did you end up landing on? Like, what's your role? What's her role? And what are unique to each other individually, and then what overlaps?
We're both pretty experts when it comes to nutrition and supplementation and stuff like that. Like, we're still doing business. We both have, like, I can go in a debate with doctors and PhDs on stuff. So we both have pretty strong background on that. My wife, obviously, social media. She was crossing it. She was more like that bubbling personality. I'm a stoic Finnish person. So my strength came in being more composed and looking at a little bit from two steps behind, looking at the situation and kind of doing a little bit of analytics in the business and looking at for more interpreting numbers, interpreting patterns, looking at, hey, honey, I'm seeing that we have a little obstacle over here, or I feel like a duplication is a little over here. Like, what do you think? So
you're more analyst, strategy, systems, vision.
Yeah.
She's a little bit more action.
Yes. And more promoter. I
more
was
of a
the
promoter.
Yeah. And I was at the end, I was more like, let's looking at the strategies, onboarding systems, as long as good. At the end, it's more like we're each other's consultants, not coaches. No. That's just the C word that we don't want to be to our spouses. But we're more like a consultant. Like, now my wife comes to me and say, hey, listen, what do you think this is? Do you see what I'm seeing over here? Or I'm doing the same thing over here. So now, again, we still have those more refined roles, but I'm more, if I want to say that I'm more like the second pair of eyes on things. Again, I look at situations in a completely different way. We have different personality traits, for sure, and that's not a bad thing by any means. But my wife is still like push, like go, and I'm right there behind her 2-3 steps purposely, and I'm picking up trends and signals. And at the time when we have, and still have, like, hey, let's have a little powwow over here. Like, what do you like? Here's what I'm seeing over here. Like, right. Are you seeing the same thing? So we're now, our jobs overlap a lot, but we just bring a different kind of perspective on things.
Yeah. Well, those of you who are listening to this versus watching, if you're watching, you'll know Sami is built very well. He's a handsome man. He's got, big arms, and, obviously he's the kind of person you want to have as a trainer. I mean, he's in shape. and you work in a female dominated team culture. So there has to be times when the females within the organization are going to take notice of you, which is not going to make your wife comfortable. How did you learn how to manage that so she could become comfortable?
I don't go and prospect women. I don't. I understand that, and I also don't want to come up as a creeper. To be honest, in a way, I think, especially cold prospecting someone or just reaching out to and expanding your network in a female audience is not something that I even want to do. But I don't think it hasn't never be a problem.
Right.
But it's always like, if there's ever been any conversation, my wife actually brings me into conversations because I bring a different perspective on things, like we even talked about. So, but I let Mandy primarily handle all the women conversations, and I'll pitch in wherever I can.
And you pass that.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed is you quickly let people know, hey, let me tell you about my wife as quick as possible.
100%.
So they know you're not a prospect.
And it would be a bad business if I wouldn't do that, because my wife is amazing in so many different ways. But I think, and here's a thing that I don't know.
I'm saying this, it's unusual for a man to talk about another man being a handsome man. But I know that creates a dynamic. And even more so with a beautiful woman, going to get hit on all the time. That's in, so that beautiful woman, if she's in a relationship, one of the smartest things she could do is very quickly make it known that she's in a relationship. So let me introduce you, instead of hiding that or whatever, or using her charm in order to be able to recruit, or using her good looks to be able to recruit. It's okay to be pretty, but it's better to be pretty and smart and committed to your important relationships, and to let the world know those things. So I think if you do that, you take care of most of the challenges. Yeah,
you gotta ultimately, like you said, you gotta draw that line like right in the beginning, at the very get-go, like make clearly like this is a professional conversation. I always been hyper aware. I want to be respectful towards my wife in any situation. So I'm never even entertained. I'm very cautious that I'm doing, and I'm also very formal. And I guess it kind of also comes from a culture. Finland is a very stoic culture. So it's not like cultures where people are naturally like very flirtatious, not meaning like both men and women are very flirtatious in some culture. Finland is definitely not one of those cultures. Absolutely not. And I for a long time, I have a military background. I was in a security company so I operated in a business environment for a long time. So
like Jack Reacher.
Yeah, kind of like that. But that carried over for a long. So I never had any kind of situation. But maybe it's because also that, like you said, I immediately, like my wife is in the forefront on everything. In my life, in every aspect of my life. She's the true rock star. I praise her in so many different ways. Not only she's just a badass in network marketing, but she's just amazing. So I would be in a business wise, it would be silly not to even bring Mandy in the picture right away. And sometimes when conversations come in about our business or product, I immediately hot potato with my wife. It's like, hey, great meeting you, great talking to you. I would love to introduce you to my wife. She's a phenomenal. She's amazing. She's helped so many women.
Right.
just like yourself with this.
Yeah. The reason why I ask these questions is I think it's important that people find their role, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, sometimes, like you said, it's not like you're way in the background being a supportive spouse. You're still actively building. You're a couple steps back. Let her go ahead and be the lead. Doesn't make you less secure in yourself. You know, look for things to be able to improve, provide support when it's available, you know, when it's needed, provide fresh eyes when it's needed. If anything, you know, part of you needs to challenge maybe some of the super quiet stoic nature, and get out there and you know, tell the world what you have a little bit more.
Yeah, it's definitely, I've had one of those moments. I'm excited. I need to notify my face too. So I need to become more the chameleon. And I think if I put myself now in a Finnish culture, I would come up as very American at this
to
time.
them.
Yeah, very, very, very. Because I've learned a lot about just being more social and having more conversations and everything else. So, but yeah, I definitely had moments where I need to prove myself. Like, no, I don't want to be this person. I don't want to be this introvert person anymore. Like, I love being by myself. I love being by myself. And I love being just alone with my wife or with my family. But I also know that I need to embrace that social side too. Not just from the business aspect of it, but because I'm all about experiencing things. And sometimes I catch myself and say, hey, listen, like, just crawl out of your cave and get out there a little bit more.
Yeah, if you're aware of it, that's the thing, right? Self-awareness. Give me 2 or 3 of the biggest lessons you've learned in the last 5 years.
Probably the biggest thing is that you got to question your own narratives. It's something that what you learned in the past about something, you have to be willing to question that narrative and have a very stretchy ideology. Ideology is great, good to have great principles. But if you're so stuck in your own way, on your own habits and way to look at things, you might miss a lot of life, a lot of money, a lot of business, a lot of experiences. So that's definitely one thing.
So challenging your beliefs, and are they real? Limiting beliefs, are they real?
Yeah. Why I feel about this situation so strongly about.
Yeah.
Why I'm like, if I'm feeling anger, why is that?
So a high level of self-awareness.
Yeah. High level of self-awareness.
Okay.
Emotion, like, and that through, you know, get like constantly just kind of assessing yourself and getting check up from the neck up.
Yeah.
And where I'm at. That's definitely one thing. And then second thing is, it's not about you. When I'm facing people, and this is a people business, like I love everyone that we work with, but there's definitely a difficult situation. So ability to rise outside of the situation and look at it from a perspective of, hey, what's this? Like, not looking at through from the emotional lenses. And then definitely something that you taught us from the very beginning is never cap yourself in just by thinking small. Yeah. Because you taught that you underestimated what you can do. You overestimated in some cases, but in another time frame, you're underestimating your whole entire life. Yeah. And that
people overestimate what they can do in 90 days, but they underestimate what they can do in 9 years.
Yeah, 100%. That was the big thing. And those 3 things that you learn, when you were able to get at, because you said all business is communication, and communication is so much easier when you are able to let go of emotional attachment and just have the conversation, listen and observe, like what's going on. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen more than you talk. So that's been helping me to just kind of, that's one of my strong suits is communication. That's been very, very helpful. But I wouldn't be able to become a great communicator if I wouldn't able to have a great self-awareness of myself, and able to reset myself on every situation, in every conversation, and look at the situation very in a clinical sense.
Right.
But also kind of rise outside of the situation and look at it from the out of body experience, and just like, this is interesting. So, but I can see that in every aspect of my life, even a relationship. That's the biggest thing that, like, we still bigger with my wife and we argue, but compared to what it used to be, it's all been a matter of minutes rather than a matter of days.
Right.
So it's purely because of that. So, but in network marketing, I think if you don't have a communication skills, or you just run with your emotions right away, there's going to be some collateral damages.
Yeah, for sure. What's the next level for you? What's the next step? I mean, if you think of life in levels, like a video game, level, you've definitely leveled up, right? What's the next level for you? What do you see? Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years from now?
Multiple six figures a year, but I want to go to multiple six figures a month. Not because we feel like we need to have big mansions and fancy cars and everything else, but you said that the money is just a way to keep track of success. So
shows how many people you're helping.
Yeah.
In our business. Yeah.
I had a naive ideology, like when in my early 30s, that by the time I'm 40, I want to retire and just sipping cocktails on the beach. But then when I passed my 40s, it's like, and do what? That might be good for a couple of weeks, but then what? It's like I'm not built for just sitting and and just like playing with my thumbs over here. And it's like, okay, what's next?
Right.
So I really wanna challenge myself, and it's like how far you can go in life in every aspect, not just in business, but how people say by the time you're 40, you're just gonna be like a crack like a glow stick without glowing. Actually, I'm like, no, I don't want to be that. Like, I want to be 60 and do everything that I want to do without any physical limitations.
Right.
Like, I want to be in a great physical shape. I want to have a great relationship. I'm going to do amazing things. And in order to do, and I want to see how far I can go in business. And I know that blissful dissatisfaction mentality, meaning like, I'm grateful where I'm at, but what are you made out of?
Right.
And that's kind of like the Kobe calls the Mamba mindset.
Right.
It's just like, I'm not doing it for the success. I'm just like, okay, how far you can push yourself.
Yeah.
That's what I'm like. And obviously I have different benchmarks and goals along the way, but ultimately it's just like, the scariest thing is being in the same situation in 5 years that I am right now.
Yeah.
That would be like
a nightmare.
Man, even a year from now, I'm like, man, I'm looking at sometimes back a year, and if you start looking at financial success, we might be not there where we wanted, but when you're looking at life experiences, the person who you are right now compared to where you were a year ago, I'm like, okay, it was a character building year, but it definitely wasn't a wasted year.
No, for sure. Well, Sami, I want to thank you for providing value here today. I want you to thank you for being here this morning and working me out, and we'll do it again tomorrow. And we made big progress in the last, 6 months or so. We finally turned a corner where I feel like I can work out without being injured, without risk of it. So
you've done such an amazing job. And like I said, the commitment is amazing, because again, if you want to use the network marketing analogy, like some people go in for 5 years and feel like there's no progress, and then there's going to be a season where everything just changes. Not necessarily.
I'm still impatient. As you know.
I know. That's what makes you great in business as well.
Come on, it's got to go faster.
You're like faster, stronger, better, more.
I'm putting in time. I'm doing the stuff, but thank you for that. Thank you for your contribution here today. Conversation. I think between the relationships, how you figured out the boundaries, kind of reinvented yourself, found your place in the relationship and in the business and where your vision is for the future. I know it's bright.
Thank you so much. And thanks for having me. And it's, thank you for everything that you do. And not just for myself and for my wife, but in general in the industry. I'm sure every listener hears that or knows you by now and knows how big of a name you are, but having actually worked with you so closely, it's you're definitely elevated my life and my wife's life, not just because of the lessons that you give, but just the life you live. And so I just want to thank you for that.
No problem, my brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
So that's my conversation with Sami Eskelin, my trainer. Trained me today, will train me tomorrow. Hope you got some training information yourself from this conversation. If you did, please make sure that you forward this to somebody who might also get some value from this conversation. Even just the relationship dynamics might be enough to help somebody who's building a business as a couple to figure out what their roles might be. Lots of lessons in this interview. Listen to it again, forward it to a friend, and I'll see you next time.